So, Bridgewater Associates continues to be one of the largest investment firms, giant hedge fund in the entire world, worth over $120 billion of assets under management, and was, of course, founded by one of the most famous investors of our lifetime in Ray Dalio, which, after retiring from the CEO position, Ray continues to serve as the company's senior investor. He's a member of the board, and he even mentors their entire investment committee, which he plans to do until the day he dies. So, in other words, he basically is still overseeing most of their investment decisions, and I really doubt that Bridgewater is making too many moves out there without Ray's blessing and oversight. Anyway, like any other giant hedge fund, Bridgewater has to release all of their trades to the public each quarter, and this latest one showed some giant purchases that we're going to be running through today. And we're going to run through the 5 largest of those. One of them, by the way, was a brand new addition to the portfolio. Another one was sort of a brand new addition too. So there's kind of 2 stocks there that were like brand new additions. Anyway, all of them were giant purchases. And so I'm going to give my opinion on each one of them, and I'll even rank them from best to worst based on my opinion too. So it's going to be really interesting to look at these. Let's go ahead and jump straight into it. All right, so counting down here from smallest to largest position in the portfolio, the first purchase that we have here is actually a brand new addition to the portfolio, and that was Amazon, ticker symbol AMZN. Very surprised that they didn't already own some of this one, but yeah, this was a giant purchase here of close to $200 million, and yet that's not even worth 1% of the entire portfolio. It's pretty crazy, right? Anyway, I love Amazon myself. It's usually a top 5 holding in both my personal portfolio and the public community portfolio, where it's actually the second largest at the moment. And business-wise, I think Amazon is one of the very best. I have no doubt that cloud computing will be really the infrastructure of the future, which Amazon leads the world in at over 30% market share. And I also think e-commerce is the future of all retail, and here in America, Amazon controls that market at well over 37%. While the next closest isn't even in the double digits. And yet, despite that dominance, would you believe that Nvidia actually has a market cap that is worth over $1 trillion more than Amazon? That's kind of crazy. I actually think an argument could be made for Amazon being the most valuable company in the world in terms of they should be, and certainly more than Apple, who also beats them by over $1 trillion as well. I found that to be pretty interesting. Now, I do think Microsoft and Google are more reasonable on this list here, but yeah, Apple and Nvidia to be worth that much more than Amazon is pretty crazy, and I just think eventually Amazon will catch up, especially when they actually start caring about profits, which you can see on this chart here that it's never really been much of a priority for them compared to the out of this world gigantic sales that they do. Now, right now the stock is up to a record high, but that's a bit deceiving there, as their forward PE ratio is actually 77% cheaper than their 5-year average, while their PEG ratio is close to the same as the sector too, despite, again, paying almost no attention to profitability. Now, once they do pay attention to that, though, in the future, I think people will be shocked by the giant profits that this company can actually start raking in, which will send the valuation falling and I think the stock price soaring. So Amazon gets the #1 ranking for now on this list. I think for being such a large and dominant giant, they're actually pretty heavily slept on by investors, in my opinion. Giant purchase number 2, though, is absolutely going to give Amazon a run for its money, because it's actually my #1 largest holding in my personal portfolio, and that is Microsoft, ticker symbol MSFT, which they nearly tripled their position on last quarter. So just a gigantic increase there, very bullish move by them, bringing it up to over $240 million and just over 1.2% of the portfolio. Okay, now Microsoft, I am equally as bullish on this one, but within the context of it being a long-term investment, because right now the stock is up a lot. It grew another 220% these past 5 years. It has a higher PEG ratio than Amazon. It's about 20% more expensive than the sector too. And the market cap is also the largest in the entire world at over $3 trillion. And yeah, also more than $1 trillion higher than Amazon as well. So, right now might not be the best time to be going ham on Microsoft. However, long term, it's still just as a reliable stock, in my opinion. Second most cloud, a quarter of the entire market. #1 in computer operating system with Windows. Nobody else even comes close. So right there, you're talking about powering and facilitating most computing in the entire world, and that's huge. And they're one of the biggest players in AI through their partnership with OpenAI and their own products and services like Copilot and more. So they're not going anywhere. Amazing size and profitability, doing over 200 billion and 70 billion in sales and profits per year. And they're just one of the best core stocks for any investor to have. But at current prices, I just think Amazon is a little more attractive here, just a bit cheaper in my opinion. So Microsoft will get the number 2 ranking, just barely behind Amazon. Up next, though, at purchase number 3, well, we actually have pretty much another brand new pickup here because it was a 166,000% increase. And yeah, that was in Apple, ticker symbol AAPL, which apparently they held just a very small amount of prior to this. So I would really consider it just another giant brand new addition here to the portfolio in the quarter, amounting to over a $300 million purchase, essentially. Now, I do own some Apple stock myself too. However, when looking at the top, 5 or 7 market cap companies out there, American ones, well, I would probably rank Apple somewhere close to last place. Not because I don't like them, but rather I just think that the others have better values. Now, Apple stock is up at the second largest market cap right now at over $3 trillion, which I feel is just too high for my liking. And that's after climbing by over 300% in just the past 5 years, also leaving them with the most expensive PEG ratio that we've seen so far at over 40% higher than the sector. And look, I'll grant you that they have a very sticky business with a great ecosystem of hardware and software that, gets people hooked in, which translates to giant profits of around $100 billion per year. And that's nothing to look past there. I also don't think that's going away anytime soon. However, the thing that bugs me right now is the currently high price tag without much growth to show for it. In fact, profits have been stagnant for years, with last year in particular actually seeing a decline in both sales and profits, which you would think that coming off of that, you'd now get some big growth in recovery, but instead, sales are expected to be almost flat this year, with barely a mid-single digit rise expected next year as well. And while I love their business, I actually just kind of hate their lack of innovation, which in my opinion is why their iPhone market share has remained below 25% throughout history, with also iOS being dominated by Android. So until Apple uses their unbelievably large amounts of cash flow and cash, balance sheet to actually invest in something innovative and exciting for the company, and no, by the way, that expensive headset that is out of most people's reach does not count as them being innovative or taking a risk, in my opinion. But until they do anything like that, then I just don't think that it deserves to trade this high. I think several other big tech giants are better, including Amazon and Microsoft. So I'm going to rank Apple in third place for now. By the way, just a little side note here. I'm actually an Android guy, so some of my analysis might be a little biased because of that. But fun fact, I actually tried using an iPhone these past few weeks, and I almost went crazy with the lack of customization options available on iPhone. I couldn't believe just how much money Apple rakes in as a company and how large and dominant they are, and yet they lack so much compared to Android. Again, it's just my opinion. I know that Apple has other amazing features. I know that the quality is very good on iPhones, and things work very well within their ecosystem of Apple products and services. But just compared to Android, when I went back to Android, it was like a breath of fresh air. I could just have everything look and feel exactly how I wanted to. Everything was just easier. Everything was in place where I would want it to be. Everything was just working better. And I also just like the more options of Android. I feel freer with Android. I can get different phones. Not everything has to look exactly the same. Not everything is exactly how Apple wants it to be. Of course, Android has folding phones now too, and they have other stuff too. But I just felt with Apple, it was and iOS, it was kind of do everything our way or hit the highway. That's kind of how I feel about Apple. And I'm curious to hear your guys' opinion on this too. Have you ever tried using iOS versus Android? And what do you feel about that? Because I like Android. I just like the freedom and the customization options on Android compared to iOS. But anyway, that's just my opinion. Sorry for the ramble. I just wanted to share that and hear your guys' opinion because I'm curious to know it. Anyway, let's go back to the list now. So moving on to purchase number 4, we're down to the final 2 stocks here. And we have a bit of a doozy here with a red hot AI stock that has been on fire this year. And that is, of course, NVIDIA, ticker symbol NVDA, which they more than doubled their position on. It looks like each of the past 2 quarters, they increased it by huge amounts, bringing the total stake up to now well over $500 million. And yeah, if we go back to our chart here, once again, we have a top player, as Nvidia is now ranked as the third largest company in the world by market cap at almost $3 trillion, and only behind Microsoft and Apple. That's so crazy. Of course, that is due to the stock skyrocketing in recent years, climbing by over 3,000% in just the past 5 years alone. And check this out, guys, over 25,000% over the past 10 years. It's so mind-blowing. It actually made them my second largest stock in my portfolio because of that. Anyway, you know what's really crazy about all this, though? Even with that rising in stock price, well, and by the way, you guys can fact check me on this because you might not believe me, but if you go to seekingalpha.com, according to Seeking Alpha, their PEG ratio is still almost 30% cheaper than the sector. How crazy is that? Now, if you're wondering why that is, it's all because of their insane growth, especially on the bottom line. If you head over to Yahoo Finance, for example, you'll see that last year, not only did sales more than double the previous year, but profits went from like 4 billion all the way up to about 30 billion in 1 year. That's crazy. And yet you look at what analysts are still projecting going forward, and sales are still expected to nearly double this year, while profits more than double and continue to grow by nearly 50% a year through the next 5 years as projected. And that's all because of the insane popularity and rise of AI, of course. I mean, just generative AI alone is expected to be worth trillions, with AI as a whole is expected to surpass that several times over too. And so companies are just really fighting to get their hands on as many NVIDIA chips as possible, since they are clearly the leader in terms of performance and functionality, especially when it comes to AI. So as long as the insane demand continues, it's going to be hard to bet against NVIDIA, even at these really high levels. In terms of ranking it though, I mean, I really think that Amazon, Microsoft, and Nvidia are all great options in the top 3. I think valuation-wise, Amazon has the most attractive market cap, but Nvidia does have the best PEG ratio. However, I also think that Amazon and Microsoft are much safer and more diversified companies to invest in. So I'm going to keep them at the top, but Nvidia is very close behind at number 3, and I could also understand someone ranking this a little bit differently. But yeah, overall, I just think that every investor should have a piece of each of these 3 stocks in their portfolio. Anyway, that'll leave us now with the final stock of the list. And look, as hard of a ranking as we just had, this last one might throw everything out the window, because at purchase number 5, we have what has really long been one of my probably my number 1 absolute favorite stock in the entire market in recent years, and it's the one that I've been buying the most aggressively too, and that is Google, ticker symbol GOOGL, which they also more than doubled their position on, bringing it up to over $800 million and worth over 4% of the overall portfolio. And yeah, I think I like this one the most here. Now, like the others, Google too is up there in market cap. However, it's well below Microsoft, Apple, and Nvidia by close to $1 trillion, and the main reason for that is because the stock price simply hasn't climbed by the same amount in recent years. Now, it is still trading near a record high and has performed very well, but when you compare it to the others, it's only climbed by less than 500% over the past decade, while the others have soared by much higher amounts at around double or more. And yet I can't really give you a good reason for that. I mean, Google's business, in my opinion, is just as strong as all these other ones, and in some cases even better. Like, what's the most important overall market in the world? I would probably say the internet, right? Well, Google dominates the internet with not only the number 1 market share in digital advertising, internet search, internet browser, mobile OS, all platform OS. That's right, Android is even bigger than Windows, but they also have the 3rd largest cloud platform. They have billions of users on YouTube, and they even have Gemini for AI to compete with ChatGPT and Copilot. I mean, shoot, they even have a growing family of products too, with the Pixel lineup that is kind of trying to emulate what Apple does. And so as a result of all of this strength, their financials have also been incredible, doing over 300 billion in sales and 73 billion in profit just last year alone, while still growing revenues by a double-digit rate and EPS by almost 20% a year too. That's unbelievable. And the stock's valuation is actually cheaper than both their 5-year average and even the sector median on a PEG basis as well. So ranking it on the list, I gotta go with Google at number 1, given that they have a reasonable valuation, but with also the size and strength of any of these other companies on the list too. But there you have it, guys. My order would be as follows: Google at number 1, my favorite; Amazon at number 2, so close there; Microsoft at number 3, also a great option; Nvidia at number 4, and then Apple at number 5. And again, I'll just stress to you guys that I love all of these stocks here for the long term. I think every long-term investor should have really every single one of these stocks in their portfolio. And even the rankings here are very close as well. I think Nvidia could be ranked higher, and I'd be fine with that too. I think people could adjust these however you'd like, and you can't really go too wrong with it. But yeah, overall, I agree with these pickups here by Bridgewater and Ray Dalio. The only one that I probably wouldn't make myself at the current moment is Apple, just because I feel that the price is a little expensive at the moment, but I still like all of these other ones, and I agree with the pickups. But what do you all think? Do you agree, and would you make any changes to my ranking? I'd love to hear that as well. But thanks again for stopping by, my friends. I hope you're all doing well, and I will catch you in the next video. All right, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.